Welcome to the Shortwave Radio channel, and a lot of you have been talking to me about, continuing my new series of my QSL cards in detail, because a lot of you enjoyed a series that I have where I talked about the QSLs, but wanted to kind of update and do it a little more modern because they've been several years ago, and my style and my way of talking and all of that has changed. So I wanted to do a video from time to time about a QSL card that has a story behind it, or some stories from stations and stuff. So one of them that is interesting is about Radio Sweden. Radio Sweden is one of those stations that I always enjoyed listening on shortwave. For some reason, and I don't know if it's because I live in Canada or what, but Nordic countries were some of my favorite stations. I would, religiously listen to Radio Norway's English language transmissions on Sunday. I would religiously listen to Radio Finland and Radio Sweden, and these were stations that I was chasing because I wanted to listen to them all the time. They had interesting programs and all, but it was, I don't know, there was some, in my head, there was some magic of listening to a station from, a Nordic country. There was something special about that. Radio Sweden was kind of interesting because, when I did a lot of QSLing in the 80s and part of the 90s, where, I was pretty active sending out reports and all. One of the interesting things about Radio Sweden was the fact that throughout the 80s, for a long time, I wrote reception reports to Radio Sweden probably 5 or 6 times a year, and never had any replies. While one of my friends that was actually doing the same thing, his first letter he sent to Radio Sweden, he had a QSL card, which made me real mad because I was like, why aren't they answering my letters? So I never understood that, and I remember writing them once and saying, you know what, I write to you regularly, and I don't know why I'm not getting any responses. And I could hear, I could see in bulletins and here in DX shows that people were receiving QSL cards from Radio Sweden, which once again made me even more mad because it was like, yeah, everybody's getting a QSL from Sweden, but I'm not, And I don't know, frankly, he said because the way I put the address on the envelope and it didn't work well. I have no idea. Until I abandoned the idea of getting a QSL from Sweden because it just didn't work. And sometime in the late 90s or even early 2000s, I decided, okay, let's try it again. I've not sent a letter to Radio Sweden for ages. Let's try it again. And I finally in the early 90s, I believe, got a QSL from Radio Sweden, which was my first ever QSL. And I was like so happy. What changed? I don't know. But after that letter that I sent and I got a QSL, after that I always had responses when I would send to Radio Sweden. So, I don't know. What did I do wrong? I will never know. I would need to have a time travel machine to go back to the 80s and see what I did wrong. But for some reason, I would not get replies from Radio Sweden back then. So anyways, this is a QSL card from Radio Sweden that was received in 2009. So that means it was received here where I live. Thinking about it, I'm not sure, but I think that I received QSL cards from Radio Sweden when I actually moved. So that's something. When I was sending when I was young, I was living with my parents. I think the first QSL of Radio Sweden is when actually I moved out of the house in 1991. So I don't know. Maybe they would reply. Maybe they would use some address they have in their database, and I would not get the letters. Maybe the address was wrong. Maybe that could be something also. I don't know. But I think the first QSL I received was when I moved. So maybe they had a wrong address or something. I don't know. But all I know is I was mad as hell as everybody was getting QSL cards. So this is a QSL card from 2009 of Radio Sweden, a station that I do miss a lot. It was one of my favorites on shortwave. And sad to see that they had left. I was really sad to see it go when they left shortwave. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching our videos.